You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Night. I'm your host Danny, and today we have Lori back again. Hi Lori, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Today we are on episode 82, and we are talking about a little known game called Truberbrook. If you haven't heard of this game, it makes sense. I don't think a lot of people have. It's an indie game that was developed by Head Up Games, and it was really like a Kickstarter back in 2017 that gained just enough traction to be able to actually produce the game. And then it was released in 2019 on the PS4, the Switch, the Xbox One, Steam, and a couple other things that it was released for. I think it came out like on a disc and stuff too. We picked it up
Recently on mobile, right?
Oh, it was released recently on mobile? Probably. I didn't notice that, but it makes sense. This game is so obscure that it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
I think it does.
It has but
it's in German.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did see that.
I came across it on Macari when I was looking for like games to buy.
Right.
And I came across it, I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. And it was like, what, $10, I think?
Sure.
So
yeah, and then you played it,
yeah,
and you thought that it was pretty good. So then I played it, and we specifically for this month, we needed something a little bit shorter, something that I could just play and get done with. And because you had already beat the game, I thought, well, shoot, I'll pick this one up and I'll play it on the side so that, you know, because we had some vacation time that we had set up, and it was a lot harder to play something a little more involved. So this is what we came up with, was this little indie game. I ended up putting like 8.5 hours on it. I was going to look and see exactly how many hours it was, but I think it was like around 8.
Mine was probably about that too.
Yeah. So this game is I said it before, it's an indie game. It's fairly well presented. And it starts off pretty well. But it's basically a point-and-click adventure game / point-and-click puzzle game. So you go around this town and you're clicking on items and collecting items and using those items to activate other items to be able to progress. But while you're playing this game, there is quite an extensive story. And I'm going to do my best to go over the story. But for all of those hardcore Truberbrook fans, forgive me if there are plot holes. But I mean, there's plot holes in it anyway, so it's kind of hard to, I don't know. You'll see.
You gotta say it with the accent.
Truberbrook.
There you go.
So, the game starts off, and you're playing as Hans Tannhauser, who is this physicist student from America. He won a lot. What? Go ahead.
Did you know that he was in his 20s?
I did know that.
He does not look like he's in his 20s.
I think it's because the game is set in like the 70s.
It's like late 60s.
I think 60s?
It's like 67.
Oh.
It's just, to me, it seemed like he was like late 30s or 40s.
Yeah, like he would be out of physicist, like college or like wherever they go.
I was surprised to know that fact, that he was like a student in his 20s.
He was younger, yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. He wins a lottery and is able to visit the town of Truberbrook, which is a small village in West Germany. He makes his adventure to Truberbrook via bus, and it's this long, winding road up the hill to get to the bus stop. And when you land, you find out that you're thousands of miles away from the nearest town. So this is really kind of a remote little village in the middle of nowhere. His first night in town, he wakes up to someone rifling through his things, and when he gets up to look, the guy has fled. He kind of chases after him a little bit, noticing that his notes are missing from his bag, his physicist notes. And he does chase after the guy on foot. The guy is leaving behind this, like, these tracks of goo. And as you're following these tracks of goo, you run into Gretchen, who is a paleoanthropology student. They're studying the ancient ritual sites of ancient German people or something. But she agrees to help you track down this guy in exchange for you. I don't know, I guess, because she's going to the same place that you're going to anyway, which is you're tracking down these tracks that lead to a mine, and Gretchen wants to go to this mine anyway, so they team up to head to this mine. So Gretchen stays back, and she is like working on the cable car, and you go back to town to hunt for the equipment for that cable car to be able to go use the cable car to go to the mines. In any case, when you find all the pieces and you get the car working again, they use clothes hangers to slide their way on the cable car to the other side. However, Hans falls off the cable and falls into the valley below, where he wakes up in a sanitarium, and he is questioned and interviewed by a doctor. I can't really give you any rhyme or reason to what you're doing there, other than this doctor is trying to find out if you're human or not. And when he's satisfied with the answers that you give him, he says, "Oh yeah, you're human," and then lets you walk out the door. And that's pretty much all there is to that. I mean, there's a lot of like puzzle stuff that you do in there too. It's not just, but like story-wise, that's it. Like, you walk in there, he says, "Oh yeah, you're human," and then you leave. When you leave, you make your way to the mines, where you find your way down to where Gretchen is, and you're confronted with a huge metal door. You have to solve a puzzle to open the door opens up, and you find this scientific lab facility that is being run by an automated system called Barbarossa. He's like an AI running this facility, this science lab, but he won't gain you access to the actual lab room unless he knows you. But Hans is able to convince him that he's a friend, helps Barbarossa like change his computer chips or something, and then they gain access to the main room, which upon entering, Gretchen immediately notices and calls out that it's the Saturn portal. It's this like large hexagonal machine off to the side. Next to the machine, there's a man who's kind of working on it. But as soon as Gretchen walks up to the machine, she pulls out a gun and forces you, Hans, and the man out of the room. As soon as you guys get out of the room, she locks the door. She shoots Barbarossa first off and locks the door, sealing her inside so that you and this new guy can't get back into the room with this Saturn portal. Hans gets a chance to talk to the stranger, and he finds out that his name is Lazarus Taft. The portal is called the Saturn portal, and it links to other galaxies and other realities. Basically, it's a portal to other dimensions. The lab that was built there was built by the Millennium Corp, and Taft came into the world through that portal. And at some point, something went wrong with that portal, where the people, the Millennium Corp, abandoned the site and took Taft with them. However, Taft really needs to be able to get home because his cells in his body are starting to decay from spending too much time outside of his own dimension. So he's in desperate need of getting the Saturn portal up and running again so he can get back to his own world. Taft was the one who crafted this lottery that got Hans into Truberbrook to begin with, and really needs Taft's notes to be able to reconstruct a device called the quantum discriminator to be able to accurately calculate the dimension coordinates to be able to get Taft home. So essentially it's like a remote control for the portal. Hans agrees to help, and they take Taft back to Hans's room, and they start working on a plan to build this quantum discriminator, using what Taft knows about the machine and what Hans knows about quantum physics. And they come up with a rough outline of what the machine looks like, but Hans has to go around town to find the remaining 4 pieces. Once you go around town, you spend a lot of... This is like half of the game, really, is you spend a lot of time talking to people, collecting all these pieces, and then you head back to... the lab with the quantum discriminator. And... you gain access to the Saturn portal room by like flipping a switch in that room. Somehow that just works. I don't know. It's weird. They confront Gretchen, who is working really hard to get this machine up and running again, and it's darn near ready to go. So the biggest problem is that this machine, if it's not calculated right, the whole world will melt down when it's trying to be used. So this whole, like, building this device was a big problem, or was a key reason why Hans wanted to help, mainly because if Gretchen did this wrong, she would destroy the world. And when the guys confront Gretchen, she doesn't care. She had lost her mom to the portal years ago. Her mom was part of the Millennium Cooperative, and I guess she must have went through the portal at some point because Gretchen wants to go through that portal to find her. Gretchen has built some sort of AI outside of Barbarossa named Dolores. And she sets Dolores to basically finalize the coordinates for the machine to be able to work. And while this is happening, she attacks Taft with... She has like a weird machine on her back that she uses to like pick Taft up and like shake him to death or something. In the meantime, Hans grabs the quantum discriminator and activates the portal. And using that same quantum discriminator, he teleports Gretchen to the portal entrance and then turns on a computer where Barbarossa like flies down a conveyor belt, hitting Gretchen in the head, and Gretchen falls into the portal and is gone. Taft is then saved because obviously Gretchen's gone now. And Taft goes to the portal to leave, to go to his home, but offers Hans to go with. And you kind of have this option if you want to go with him or if you want to stay behind in your world. And not much changes depending on what you pick. I did go back and I did both. If you choose to go with him, Hans like has a moment of kind of saying goodbye to the world that he'll probably be back, and then goes off into the portal and you don't see him again. If you choose to stay, Barbarossa kind of has a little thank you for staying, my friend, and then that's it. Like the game just ends. And that's it. Like that's the whole game. There's what did you think about the story, Larry?
You know what's funny is if Taft was coming into our world or whatever, and he was melting, wouldn't that happen the other way around? Like he offered Hans to go with him, but then wouldn't Hans like degrade in the other realm?
Yes, there are lots of plot holes with this game. Yes. I have several questions that are very similar to that, like what the heck was with the sanitarium and the doctor thing?
I don't think it was just like a piece to
Yeah, it was just like an extra thing to do.
I don't know. Maybe we're missing something.
Maybe it's possible. Also, Gretchen at some point has this like line of dialogue where she says, there's only enough power left in the portal for one more. And then she goes through the portal, and then Taft goes through the portal, and then Hans goes through the portal. So, like, obviously that wasn't true.
I don't know. The whole thing was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Like,
they tried to do this, like, huge science fiction story.
Yeah, and it's like, it wasn't quite there.
It wasn't adding up right, yeah. Yeah.
It's like there just wasn't enough mystery. Like, there wasn't enough there to, like...
It didn't fully make sense. Like, they were there doing this thing, but it was like, yeah, like, I kind of understood the urgency with, like, the machine melting down, but even that, it wasn't like the world was kind of shaking or tremors or something important. Like, I feel like that there was things that they could have done to increase that urgency. Like, when you're building the quantum discriminator, you have to collect 4 major pieces.
Well, there was some weird things that happened. Like, there was that time that you were back in the town and everybody was like statues.
Yeah, you fell through the portal, right? You fell while Gretchen's like there and attacking Taft. At one point, Hans goes through the portal. And he's in the town square, and everyone's like mannequins or something. And then he knocks over Gretchen's statue, and then teleports back to the real world, and her like barrier's gone. Like, it, from a story perspective, it makes no sense. From a gameplay perspective, it's like, well, here's a bunch of puzzle stuff to do to fill, to make it puzzly, to fill time, to make it seem like you're doing something.
I feel like there's something there that we're just not quite understanding what they wanted to say.
Yeah. That it was kind of lost in either translation or it was lost in their storytelling abilities.
Yeah.
At one point, there's a lady at the weather station. And she, when you're done talking to her,
she just floats away.
She just floats away on a weather balloon. Like, she just grabs the balloon and she's like, well, I gotta go see this, and then flies away. Okay. The biggest question mark for me was there's this void that Hans travels to between each chapter. And, like, you're walking, it's like this big dark room, and you're just, like, walking around, and people are saying stuff, but nothing makes a whole lot of sense. And then you just like wake up and you're in the next chapter. And it's almost like at one point he talks to Taft about it, and Taft describes it as that's the state that your mind goes into when you're transporting between dimensions. So I don't know why Hans would be experiencing that outside of being in the portal anyway. I don't know. It was weird. It didn't make sense. a lot of pieces didn't make sense. While researching this story, I kind of had this funny thought, like, what if Hans, when he used the coat hanger to slide to the mines and he fell, maybe he, like, hit his head and is, like, I don't know, like, in a mental institution, and his brain is playing these tricks on him, and everything from that point on is like his delusions, you know? I don't know. I can't, because the game gets really weird after that. And so, like, it kind of makes sense that, like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Although he couldn't have been completely sane if he was going to use a coat hanger to slide on a cable car, but that's just me.
Or accept a lottery ticket that he didn't enter.
Right, yeah, that too. Yeah, that's funny. Like when he first shows up, he's like, "Yeah, I'm here. I won this lotto. I don't remember entering it though." Like, isn't that a red flag?
Yeah.
Like, if I got an email saying, "Hey, you won this lottery," I'd be like, "No, I didn't." So, what did you give it for story, Larry?
I gave it a 4.
You gave it a 4.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, I gave it an 8.
I was too confused.
I gave it an 8 because, yeah, there was a lot of holes, but, like, I was following along okay. Like, I kind of understood the directions they were going, and, like, the plot twist with Gretchen being this surprise, Gretchen's a bad guy thing. Because, like, up until that point, you were working with Gretchen, and there was a lot of dialogue with her about, you know, her being in Germany to research these ancient sites, and, you know, like, she had a lot of backstory, and you kind of got to know her, and then there was this big twist, and now she's crazy, and she's pointing guns at everyone, and, you know, it was supposed to be this big plot twist, you know. I don't know, I felt like the story... In the grand scheme of things, the story wasn't terrible. So I did give it an 8. But a 4 is valid, for sure. For sure. Graphics. Unless you're not done with story.
No,
Okay.
Good to go.
Graphics, I thought the world looked really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was really well designed.
Yeah.
The characters looked really good. Do you got anything? To...
Well, what'd you give it?
Oh, I gave it a 9.
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the textures and the sets were really, really pretty. The way that the way that they designed them, you know, the team was known for building these miniature models, and that's what they did with this game. You know, they built these miniatures, and it really looked real. You know, the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, it looked real without looking too real.
Right.
Like it didn't look like a photograph overlaid, but it looked like a really well done model.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked how many objects there were to interact with.
Yeah.
And a lot of them had something like the crows. You would interact with the tree and the crows would show up, and you'd interact with the sign and the crows would show up. It was really nice to see how many items you could interact with.
Even if they didn't have any, like, direction to the story.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, in the hotel, you can look at all the pictures on the wall.
Yeah, yep.
And, like, you don't really have to, but they're there for you to look at.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other hidden items in this that maybe if we used a microscope and really looked at everything, you might be able to find more story, more links to everything. Like the book that's in his room, you can interact with that, and there's a bunch of like logs in there.
Yeah.
There's like there's a patient list inside the sanitarium that you could look through and maybe glean more information out of that. But the reality is there's stuff to look at and a lot of detail put into this. So it's like, you know, from a graphical perspective, it's a lot of work to put in, you know.
Yeah.
When you made a change in this world, it was usually permanent, which I really respected. Like when you put the blanket down for the cat fox that was in the tree for that one random puzzle, like the blanket stayed in the boat. Just like the little things that stayed when you changed them.
I liked the gas station scene.
Yeah, the gas
really
station.
Pretty, like the opening scene.
Yeah. So when you first start the game, you kind of are given a tutorial, and you're in this like real small area where Gretchen rolls up on a motorcycle, and she's run out of gas, and her engine's overheating, and she goes into the gas station that's closed, and this gas station looks like it's floating through space. And it's such a beautiful background, and you walk in, and it's kind of a gross, it just fits the atmosphere of this like rundown gas station.
Yeah. I liked that.
There were a few special effects that looked really good too.
The Northern Lights.
Yep, the Northern Lights was one. The portal, the way that the portal like shimmered and lightning bolts, and it looked really good. The only thing that I could say that was bad necessarily was not everything had clear depth. So as you're walking around in the world, you don't really know where items are because you have no sense of depth.
I had like the worst time going up and down those stairs because they were so like it's like they were kind of a spiral, but they weren't. So like
they were made, it was like they were designed to be messy.
Yeah.
But
it was really
hard to walk down.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say that we played the Switch version.
Yeah.
And it looks like in the PC version you could just point and click and Hans will just walk to that location. So maybe in our game it doesn't play quite as well as like the PC versions would. So, something to think about there. But again, this is our experience with the game, so,
I didn't really like the character designs.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
I felt like they looked good.
They looked okay
But you just didn't like the artistic style.
They looked fine for the aesthetic of the game, but I just didn't really like the artistic style of them. And I also didn't like that you never really got anything close up. Like, it was all just the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, if there was anything, like, major happening, you didn't really get a close-up of the character.
It was just the same scene.
Yeah.
Just there. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any other negatives, though. You want to move on to gameplay?
Sure.
I'm going to say I gave gameplay a 4.
A 4?
I gave it a 4.
What?
It was just, it was clunky at best.
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
And I said the same thing. It was very clunky.
Yeah. It was hard to move around.
And it would probably be easier with a mouse.
Agreed.
On the PC.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, control-wise, you have one on the Switch, you have one stick that moves Hans around. You have another stick that moves like a cursor around, and then the buttons are used to interact with the items after you've hovered over them with your cursor. So you can move Hans around, or you can click on items in the world and Hans will just automatically walk up to them. And a lot of times that was easier than trying to move Hans yourself, was to just kind of click on items and he'll automatically move there. Mm-hmm. But then you have to sit through dialogue if there was dialogue on that item or whatever.
I did that once. I clicked on the stairs to go upstairs in the hotel, and he automatically started walking that way, except he got stuck in the television.
Oh no!
And I couldn't do anything. I had to reset my game because he was stuck running at the television.
I didn't have any problems like that.
That's the only problem I had.
The stairway that you were talking about in the basement of the hotel, I was walking up it, and just as I started to see the doorway, because I was coming from the bottom, so I was walking up the stairs. As soon as I could see the top of the doorway, I would click on that and tell Hans to go through the doorway, and he just walked up the stairs, no problem. Like, no issues whatsoever. Now, me trying to navigate him down the stairs with the stick, with the analog stick, he was like running into walls and getting stuck on the stairs, and it was just a mess. Aside from that, the gameplay was weird. Like, I was joking, but like, like, oh man, I need a key. I need to be able to open the TV to get the tube out, but I'm gonna need I need a special item. Well, that item in my mind would be a screwdriver, but no, in reality, it's like a toothbrush or it's a rubber duck that you need to fill up with water and then squirt at the TV. And, it's just like the most random solutions for some of these things.
A lot of them didn't make sense at all.
At all. At all.
Why am I doing this?
Well, and you're picking up items and you're like, what am I going to need? Like, I picked up the the dragon floatable, or no, was it a dragon? Was it a dinosaur?
I don't remember. It was a dinosaur, or, yeah, the little floaty thing.
Yeah, and I picked this up and I'm like, what the heck am I going to use this for? And like every now and then it would show up in the menu as like, use this item here. And then you go to use it and Hans is like, oh, you silly, I can't use this here. It's like, why is this an option then? I mean, you do end up using just about every item in the game. So it's like, you're not picking up useless items, and your inventory is more or less infinite, so it's not like you're at some point not going to be able to pick something up. But as you're walking around, you're picking up stuff, and you're like, what am I going to need this for? Like, why would I pick this up? However, on the flip side, there are some items you can't interact with unless you know that you need to interact with it. Like, unless you've had that dialogue of someone saying, oh, I need something to fill with helium. Then you can go and you can find the item or whatever. That's not a perfect example, but that's kind of the idea behind it. It's like you won't be able to interact with something unless you know you need to, unless the game has told you you need to interact with it.
When you get a pair of boots and you think, oh, I can just wear these boots to wade across the water. No, you can't. You need another piece to wade across the water.
You need a trash can lid times two.
2 trash can lids.
One for each shoe.
Like, why? Why would I need trash can lids to walk across water?
Makes no sense. No sense. It's just, and the clothes hangers. Like, you specifically have to, so, okay, when I was playing, you activate the cable car, and Hans is like, hey, the cable car is working, but there's no car here. I'm going to have to improvise. And it's like, okay, so do I need to construct a cable car? So I went down to like the boat. There's like a little dinghy boat that you could use or that you can interact with.
This is like the first major puzzle thing that you're doing, so you don't realize how ridiculous everything is.
By the end of the game, you're like, I mean, this could be used for this rubber duck. I could use this for anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the beginning of the game, you're trying to think logically, and it just doesn't work here. Like, I was looking at the boat thinking, well, maybe I got to carry the boat up to the cable car and then like attach it to the cable car. Nope. All you needed was a couple clothes hangers. Makes total sense. I'm just gonna grab my clothes hangers and just slide. I don't know. Just ridiculous. Some of the things that you had to do. The weather station again. Not the lady floating away on the helium. That was hilarious. But the weather station in itself just like shows up on the map. Like there is no rhyme or reason to it being there.
Until you need that piece.
Right, yeah. It's like, you go down, you're down kind of by the water, by the bus stop, and then you have this, like, hallucination thing that happened. Oh, I think you're, like, drunk or something, right? And you have this hallucination of it's winter, and there's this lady who's walking through, and then she like vanishes, and then it's not winter anymore, and that's all you see, and you're like, what was that about? And then like you spend 4 hours trying to figure out what the heck you need to do next, and then you randomly happen to look at your map, and there's like one new piece of land that you can go to, that you teleport to. You don't even walk there, you just teleport there. So it's like, there could have been some hint that, hey, you need to go somewhere new. Like, there was another spot where, in the later game, where they had the crazy guy in the treehouse, and he runs off screen, so you kind of chase after him. You're like, oh, I can go over here, and then you have a whole nother area.
Oh yeah.
That makes sense, right? Yeah. But the weather station thing made no sense. It's just like, she's there, the weather station lady's there, and then she's just gone, and you don't know if you've had a hallucination or not. Gameplay, man.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. Honestly, I spent 8 hours in this game. I think like 5 hours of that was me walking around having no idea what to do. Because again,
same.
If you if you don't know, I mean, it makes sense if you don't know the puzzle, you need to figure it out.
It's funny because once you get going, you realize how ridiculous some of the stuff is. So like you kind of factor that in, but in the beginning, you're thinking too logically, and you're running all over the place looking for these logical pieces of the puzzle.
Well, not even that. It's along with that, you have bits of the game that doesn't unlock unless you talk to a very specific person at a very specific time. So like, it comes to the point where if you don't know where to go next, you're just walking around clicking on every item that's clickable, talking to every person that's talkable, and trying to find anything to get you to progress at all. And that was literally the majority of my game.
That was me in the very beginning trying to find the second coaster.
That was sitting on the floor?
I didn't
know. It was the beer.
I had to order the beer.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like looking in all the rooms for a coaster.
It really is just walking around clicking on anything that you can possibly click on.
That's what the type of gameplay is. Like,
yeah.
It's just...
But this isn't the first time I've played a game like this. I've played a few others, and most of the time it makes sense. Like you walk somewhere and you're met with a roadblock of some kind and a puzzle of some kind. And then you inspect the puzzle, you inspect the roadblock, and you're given clues as to what you need. And then you backtrack and find those items. This game doesn't work that way. This game is just like everything is a roadblock and everything is an item. Just hopefully you get the right and hopefully you get the right combination.
Yeah.
Like that's really it. Skill-wise, I'd say you have to have 0 skill. Like, you don't need any skill to play this game. It's just a matter of having enough patience to get to the end. I mean, multiple times I was sighing and frustrated just because I don't have any idea what to do next. Like literally and it's not even hard. Like the only puzzle that was minutely hard was the puzzle with the big door before you go into the science lab.
Yeah.
And you have to...
But like that was a good challenge puzzle.
I know. It made sense.
Yes.
Like they gave you enough clues. They gave you enough information for you to figure it out on your own. You didn't have to look it up. And what it was this big door, and the door had 5 lights on it. And as you inspect this big wall that the door is on, you find hieroglyphs of different time eras. And as you illuminate those hieroglyphs, they interact with the door. And when you find all 5, all the 5 lights on the door light up. And if you do it in the right order, the door opens up. If you don't, the lights turn red, and then you got to find them all again. Well, what you have to do is you have to illuminate the glyphs on the wall in the right time era. So like there was like caveman paintings, and there was Egyptian hieroglyphs, and there was Latin writing, and there was like runic signs, and there was graffito or something.
Yeah.
So like you had to illuminate them in the right order of time period that they would have existed.
Yeah.
And when you get them in the right order, the door opens up and you feel good about it. Like that's how you're supposed to do your puzzles. Right. Not, you need 2 coasters. You need 2 garbage cans now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just silly. It was silly.
So what about music?
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 7.
Like, the voice acting I thought was fairly well done.
It was okay. It was a little awkward at sometimes.
Yeah, but it wasn't like overly awkward.
No.
It just, I think Hans was really good.
Yeah.
His voice actor was really, really well done. Gretchen was a little over the top, especially when she goes crazy. Like when she's just talking, she seems pretty normal and it's nice. But like she has one awkward scream where she falls through the portal, and like you would think that it would be like No, it's like, ah! She's just sitting there screaming for like a half a minute, and it's super weird. It's super weird.
The little girl, she sounded like an old lady. Like, she didn't sound like a little girl.
Yeah. I don't know if that was just an accent thing.
I felt like that was really weird.
Yeah. I liked her, though. She was fun to interact with.
Yeah, she was interesting.
There was a lot of good sound effects in the game. Going back to being able to click on everything kind of had... When something was there to interact with, it would make the appropriate sounds. Like, again, the crows falling and landing on stuff had good noise associated with that. When you're on the boat and you gotta... Or the paddle boat and you gotta cross the lake, everything had a sound. The footprints had a good sound. It sounded good, overall.
The ambient noise, was pretty good.
Exactly.
Like all the different sets had their ambient noise in the background. The birds rustle or the trees rustling or whatever.
And when there was the parade or the festival in town, there was you could hear people in the background murmuring.
Yeah, talking. Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of music, but what little bit of music there was, I feel like added to the atmosphere of the game. This mysterious, spooky almost, what's gonna happen next?
I enjoyed the concert.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I really enjoyed the musician and his voice. I don't know.
It was almost like a theme song to the game, and it was like this dreary... unless you listen to it, you wouldn't have any idea what we're talking about. It's just it's like a real moody song.
It sounds like a sad Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, it did, yeah. Yep.
And I liked the fact that you can choose lyrics.
Yeah, that's true.
When in the festival, when you're listening to them.
Yep.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah, there's... A story aside, there's a lot of things that you can... There's a lot of things that you do that has no relevance to the story, like the festival that really... the majority of what those things had to do with was to complete the puzzles that you're working on. Like the musician.
Mm-hmm.
You had to get him drunk in order for him to play his music. I don't even know... What did you get for doing that? I don't even remember. I have no idea. I just remember you had to get the beer in order for him to play his song.
I don't know. What's the transition there? I have no idea.
Afterwards, he vanishes. I don't know. Maybe it's something that unlocks the is that when you get drunk afterwards and then you wake up wasted at the bus stop and then you have access to the weather station? So it's something like that, I think.
But what's the point where you touch the goo and you wake up don't you wake up at the bus stop glowing with the goo?
No.
Is that just a difference?
I think that's a different thing, because the goo is the star that fell, right? In the swamp. You go to the swamp and you inspect the fallen meteorite, and then you're glowing.
Yeah.
And then you take your glowing self to that wilderness lady up at the top, or maybe she's in the woods or something, and she's like, "Oh, you don't look very good. Here, take some meds."
Oh.
And then she gives you the medicine that you use to win the trophy with the sledgehammer game. She's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay, the sledgehammer. So, those games in the festivals where it's the strong arm, you have the mallet, and you got to hit the mallet to hit
to ring the bell.
Right. So they have this game in there, and normal Hans isn't strong enough to ring the bell. But if you ring the bell, you get a metal cup, and you need this metal cup to do things. you were telling me that your solution was to find the like big burly woman.
Well, I found the big burly strong woman that's up by the cable car. I'm like, well, surely I have to convince her to do this for me because she's big and strong. No, that's not the case at all.
No, instead you have to get steroids from that big burly woman, and you take the steroids, and then you're strong enough to hit the mallet and ring the bell and win the prize. It's just like, what? Why? Also, another stupid aspect to this, another weird aspect to this game. You give that woman the boots, and she gives you something in return. I don't remember what it is. It's the cigar. I think it was the cigar leaves or whatever. But you go up and you give her the boots, and at some point she says, "Oh, I accidentally dropped the boots." Like, what? But then, like, you see her again later, and you ask her, how are those boots holding up? And she's like, "Oh, I'm getting around just fine." Like, what? Why? What is that, a mistranslation or what? Like, I have no idea. I have no clue. So I mean, a lot of that had nothing to do with music, but
we're getting off topic here.
But I guess this is a good segue for the overall segment. How you feel about the game overall? I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Me too.
Like, aside from the gameplay, I feel like it was a decent game.
Yeah.
But the gameplay holds so much weight that it's like not that good of a game, because obviously if the gameplay isn't good, you're not going to want to play it again.
I don't know. I think it's worth playing because it is so pretty. Like, I appreciate how they made the game.
It's pretty and it's weird. If you like those weird games,
it's a different style, and I appreciate that and the work that they put into that. The gameplay isn't the greatest.
Yeah.
And the story is kind of lacking, but overall, I enjoyed my playthrough of it.
I don't know if I would have played this game had you not played it through. If we'd have just bought the game and I threw it into like, oh, hey, let's see what this is like, I probably would have gotten like an hour and a half in, and I'd been like, it's so hard to get around. It's like the puzzles are so convoluted that it's like, why am I doing this? So it discourages you from wanting to play. Yeah, it is very pretty. And there is a sense of mystery. Like, once you get into the game, and
I think once you get to the point where you've fallen into the like weird sanitarium place, then it's like,
yeah, you have to figure out what the heck is going on. Well, and the funny thing is, the weird sanitarium place has nothing to do with the rest of the game. So, like, it's like that happens, and then they let you leave, and you're just like, well, that was weird, and then you leave and continue on. It just makes no sense. It seriously, when you wake up in the sanitarium, it's like this grungy, gross medical room.
Is it a sanitarium? Like, is it officially a sanitarium?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when you walk outside, you know, the entryway, it has like a sanitarium like logo.
Yeah.
But also the people in town say that place used to be a sanitarium, but now it's a facility for something else, or they kind of talk about it in the town too. Though again, it's not like it gives you a whole lot of insight to what exactly is going on there and why you were there to begin with. No idea. But yeah, like when you first wake up there, it's like this weird, you're in this grungy hospital room, and then you're greeted by this like crazy doctor, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, it's almost scary because it's so like grungy and gross. And then it's like, it goes nowhere. Like, Hans isn't tortured. He's not in any real danger. He's just like locked in a room, asked a bunch of questions, and then he can just leave. And that's it. It's just weird. Really weird. So I gave it a 36 out of 50.
My total was 32.
So that gives us a 68 out of 100, or a 6.8 out of 10. Which, I mean, a 6 out of 10 is better than It's better than we've played worse games. We'll say that. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's not terrible. It's a genre that is easily dying. Like, you don't see too many games that are this point and click adventure anymore. So from that perspective, it's fun to play just to have that nostalgia. If you grew up with those kinds of games like Zork, or that's the only game that comes to mind for me is Zork. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I played it. I'm glad it's over. It's a fun talking point for sure. Like, I'm sure a lot of people haven't played this game at all, but if you have, you know what we're talking about. It's weird. It's different.
Fun to play something different.
Sure.
Now and then.
Yeah, for sure. And indie games are definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Because indie games, they have no restraints that the big titles do. Like, if nobody likes the game, oh well, it was just an indie, a little side project.
More than a side project, I'm sure, for them.
Yeah, you're probably right. Although they had the Kickstarter, so I mean, if they made it through the Kickstarter, then I mean, they already made their money, basically. But it was good enough to have a physical release of it, too.
Yeah.
So that's interesting in itself. So, I don't know. I'm curious what other people thought of this game.
It came with a little booklet, too, which was really cute.
Yeah, games don't have that anymore.
Postcard.
Games don't have the freaking instruction manual anymore.
Or whatever. I don't even know. Was it an instruction manual? I don't know.
Maybe we'll have to look at it. Maybe there's more story in there. Ooh.
We'll be right back.
Well, I guess we'll end it here for this time. Our next podcast episode right now looks like it's going to be the Yuffie Final Fantasy VII, the Yuffie mission, or whatever they're calling it.
That's weird.
That's weird?
It's weird that you guys are doing that for a full podcast.
Yeah, it is. I think the biggest reason is because it really is like an 8-hour addition to the game. So we're treating it as its own, because it's its own story, and it's not really a continuation of Final Fantasy VII, the remake Final Fantasy VII. We're treating it as its own game and its own thing. I mean, really, you have to pay to get this extension anyway, so it really is its own.
So does
thing.
that mean we'll eventually get to review Animal Crossing's DLC?
Of course. Why not? That is coming out real soon.
Yeah.
Couple days.
Next week.
Yeah.
This week,
yeah.
that'd be fun.
Man. Yeah.
For me.
For you. You and Kaylee can review that. That's fine with me. I'm not gonna sit and play it again. I don't need to. I've seen you play enough. Alright, guys, we are gonna end it here for today. Thank you all so much for hanging out and listening to this podcast episode. Lori, thank you so much for playing this game with me. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.